Moin Freunde, alles klar? Willkommen zurück. Heute geht's rein in ein neues Format, was ich mal ausprobieren will. Und zwar Reaction. Genau, wie es oben schon im Titel steht. Mir wurde ein Video vorgeschlagen und zwar F1 Drivers Motorhome. Das ziehen wir uns jetzt gemeinsam rein. Ich bin ultra gespannt als Formel 1 Fan, wie die da chillen in ihren Buden, was die da haben für Häuser. Nebenbei gönne ich mir mein Frühstück um 18:18 Uhr. Jedenfalls, sieht schon von weitem ganz gut aus. Sieht ganz geil aus, ganz groß eigentlich. Ich erwarte jetzt ein luxuriöses Haus to go. Ich erwarte jetzt Holz, vielleicht ein bisschen Marmor, ne? Ein bisschen Lichtspielereien und so ein Kram.
This is a $1.2 million motorhome for an F1 driver. Want to have a look inside? Let's go. Well, this is a monstrous 3-bedroom motorhome. It's such a lovely, spacious vehicle. Has 3 bedrooms, and that's ideal for a driver who perhaps wants his
Sieht jetzt nicht so krass luxuriös aus.
come along, maybe mum and dad, or perhaps his trainer in one room and manager in another. And this motorhome will probably do 5 or 6 races this year. Of course, it's got all the modern conveniences. I can see a toaster over there, coffee machine, a big screen TV both here and in the main bedroom. And it's not uncommon
nicht
for
so
drivers to want to
luxuriös,
set up a sim. As you probably already read, Max Verstappen has a sim set up in his motorhome. But he doesn't rent one. He owns his own motorhome. He will spend so much of his downtime in his motorhome just doing sim racing. And what do you reckon a driver would pay for something like this? Well, it's in the order of 15 to 20,000 euros for the race weekend, so effectively 4 or 5 nights. But let's have a look at that, because if you were to go to, and I'll pick the Shangri-La Hotel in Saudi Arabia, one room is going to be just under 2,000 euros for the night, and if you've got 3 rooms, which is effectively what you have here, that's a lot of money times by 4 or 5.
Ja, ich würde aber auch lieber an der Strecke pennen. Viel geiler.
A very busy environment. I've just found out that this master bedroom has a Turkish sauna.
Aber warum zeigen die jetzt Hotel?
This room has 2 bunks in it, along with a smaller 32-inch television. This would be ideal for a driver, or say someone like a Checo Perez who's got a couple of kids. Perfect. And this is the second bedroom with a bunk bed here, which actually rises automatic. Well, not automatically, it's on a mechanism, but allows you to have one bed at that height.
Das ist gar nicht so
The
luxuriös.
whole floor section that you're stood on here drops down about 10 centimeters, and then each pod moves in about a meter each side, and then the whole thing obviously is ready to roll. Then on the road, that reduces the width by about 50%.
I must admit, when James from Race
Okay, also man kann es auch einfahren, hat er gerade gesagt,
one of these things, I was pretty darn excited.
damit es auf die
Because
Straße
often
passt.
I get comments from people like you watching this saying, where do the drivers stay in these motorhomes and what are they like inside? Well, as you can see, there's no expense spared. It is quite lavish. But while the inside of this home is fantastic, it's probably more the outside that is of appeal to the drivers. Why? Well, if they stay in a hotel, and they do for a lot of the flyaway races outside of Europe, they are just constantly badgered by fans. They can't go anywhere and have a private, quiet time. Whereas here, there's only F1 drivers and perhaps a couple of F2 that are welcome. And if you're wondering how this monstrous $1.2 million motorhome is transported, this is the
1,2
Mercedes
Millionen.
Actros with more than 500 horsepower.
We have to be ultra discreet. If the public or fans find out where we are, we have had.
Es ist aber auch noch nicht mal eingerichtet.
We've been absolutely mobbed by fans, and we've had to find a new location for the following year.
And when a driver books James for one of these magnificent motorhomes, everything's taken into account. In fact, I just saw him spraying the fragrance around the room as a final touch.
This is what I use, but it's my own formula, my own mixture, and I can't tell you what it is.
Die Frau geht noch, die Ehefrau von dem Vermieter läuft noch rum und sprüht noch so Duftspray rum, oder was? Aus ihrem eigenen Rezept. Geil.
Do the drivers socialise with each other out here?
Yeah, they do actually, because they're in such a secure area, and there's only other F1 drivers or F2 drivers or driver managers, so they tend to go out in the evening, kick a football around. goes up and down on a skateboard sometimes, and yeah, they'll just socialise generally together around the motorhomes.
And that's something they can't do at the track as much as they used to, and certainly not out in a city or in a park, wherever they are racing. So to come out here, be able to have that freedom to move around without being bothered,
Ja, ist halt ein
is
Safe
of
Space
immense
für die,
value
ne?
to them. And I think when you look at the money involved here, it's pretty darn good value. So you, as a perhaps businessman, could you come and rent one of these vans and join up the little circus here? No, you can't. It's only available to F1 and F2 drivers. Coming back to this van though, it has Starlink. In fact, all of the vans have Starlink, so you've got internet. And this screen over here can feature the timing information live from the track. Now, at this point, I'm sitting on a bed that an F1 driver will be sleeping in tonight and for indeed the next 5 nights. This is certainly a different world to where most of us would stay for
Okay,
an F1
die haben
race.
Starlink
so this
Internet.
bed here has a Sleep 8 pod.
18
connected.
Bildschirme gefühlt
What is that?
für alles.
It allows water to be pumped around. Obviously the sheet goes over the top, but water is pumped around and it can be set at the optimum temperature for a driver. So imagine that the driver's trainer would be working with the mob in New York to provide that system, coming up with the
Elektronisch
right
beheizte
temperature. They
Betten,
remotely
geil.
link in,
Okay,
set
das
it
ist
up, bang,
Luxus.
that driver sleeps at the right temperature for his body. So apart from the 4 TVs in this motorhome, this is a Harman Kardon sound system which is loud and beautiful quality. But on top of that, there are actually 6 different air conditioners installed here. So each different
6
area can
Air-Conditioner.
be set to the optimum temperature for whoever is using that area. What's the driver asked you to organise?
One particular driver that I won't name will only drink milk from his region in his country. So we transport that around Europe so that he has his own milk at every race.
Isn't that
Okay, Frage in den Kommentare. Wenn ihr euch in Formel 1 ein bisschen auskennt oder wenn ihr dazu guckt und ihr ein paar Fahrer kennt, wer glaubt ihr trinkt Milch aus seinem Land und auch nur aus seiner Region und der verlangt das sogar noch? Welcher Fahrer könnte das sein? Ich glaube, entweder ist es Max Verstappen. I don't know why. Ich glaube, der kommt aus so einer Gegend in Holland. Oder es ist kein Ami. Ich glaube, es ist auch kein Spanier. Es ist kein Italiener. Ich glaube vielleicht ein Gasly oder ein Ocon. Müsste ich mal recherchieren. Wenn ihr Ideen habt oder schreibt es einfach in die Kommentare. Mich würde es interessieren, wer von wem ihr glaubt, wer da Milch trinkt.
amazing? And on top of that, James and his wife
Beziehungsweise wer es
plan to
verlangt.
go out and stock up the fridge with whatever the drivers want, pick up any different items that they may need, virtually provide a bit of a concierge service. And you might be wondering, with back-to-back races, how long does it take to get this monstrous motorhome from A to B? If it's, say, I don't know, 1,500 kilometres, it's around about 21 hours. That's if you've got 2 drivers. But if there's only 1 driver, it's going to be in the order of 2.5 days to go, say, 1,500 kilometres. I've done a fair bit of safaring in Africa and I've stayed in some amazing camps, but this is very much glamping on a mega scale. And is there any security? Yes, there needs to be, because people can be very clever. And if a location is divulged, the security is ramped up, and then, as James already told us, it can be the situation where the year after he has to find somewhere new to set up all of these motorhomes. When you and I travel, we typically take our own gear for the bathroom, shampoo, soaps, whatever, sprays, but oftentimes James and his crew will have to go out and source all that, and they get to know a driver over the space of a season, and they know that every race he will need these 4 or 5 potions. In places like, I don't know, Budapest, where I stay at the Kempinski Hotel, next door is a Ritz-Carlton, often there will be 400 and 500 people waiting out the front for drivers. Now, more and more drivers are now starting to go this route, where they say, no, we don't want to have to battle 35 minutes in the traffic to come back to sign autographs and do selfies for 20 minutes before they go to dinner, because they might have an engagement on. So that's where this sort of high-end glamping for sports stars really comes into its own. And I can only see
Ajo.
more and more of
Würde ich aber auch machen,
doing
bevor ich
this
jetzt ins
as
Hotel
time
fahre,
goes by. I think the
wo dann
real
2
challenge
Millionen
will
Leute
be
auf mich
to
warten,
keep these places secret.
nur
I'm
um
not even gonna
Autogramme
tell you
zu
how
geben,
far we
dann
are
auch
from the
ultra viel
track.
Stress zu
Or for that
haben,
matter,
dann
what
penne ich
country
lieber in so
we're
einem,
That's part of this deal.
so einem
But
Container, Mann.
essentially, we are within, I don't know, 5 Ks of the track. The trip in and out in the morning can easily be done by car, scooter, or even on foot. Some drivers have been known to run back to their compound. So which drivers are staying here? Well, I can tell you in number, it's about 10, which is half the field. And on top of that, you've got their managers and trainers. So really,
Also
you
10
could end up
Fahrer,
with 30 to
so
40
roundabout,
people here
bleiben immer an
of a
ihren,
night time. And if they
pennen
want,
immer
they
an
can
solchen
get together
Dingern.
and socialise, as we've already discussed. Community, that's what I hear James say over and over again, where they're around like-minded people who aren't asking for autographs. They can talk openly about their sport, and they're all on pretty much the same level. They're mixing with their peers. And I can only imagine what sort of chat goes on here at night. Could you imagine? Especially after
Ja,
an interesting
bestimmt
day
voll
on the
geil. Man
track,
kennt's ja noch
perhaps
von damals,
perhaps there's been
Schulausflug und
some
so.
friction. Maybe here is where they sort all that out. Now there is one location I can tell you where the drivers stay.
Wenn man sich
in their
abends trifft, noch ein
compound,
bisschen
because
quatscht
I've
oder
mentioned it
so.
so many times in my past videos.
Was da wohl
That
bequatscht
is
wird.
at the BRDC,
Manager
British
sind da.
Racing Drivers Club at Silverstone, inside the track, and it's the only place they're allowed inside the track. And you'll see the drivers take their scooters or their bikes around those winding roads on the inside of the track to get to the swipe gates for the paddock. But of course you can't get anywhere near that because security is really quite tight there. I've got to go and kick a football around with some blokes in a minute, so I'm going to leave you. But before I do, I'm going to urge you to go to kimmelman.com and go to my signed drivers.
War jetzt nicht so das krasse Video. Ich habe mir jetzt mehr erhofft, ein bisschen mehr Bilder. Aber okay, jetzt weiß ich, wo manche von denen pennen.
Passionate.
Und ich will wissen, wer diese Milch trinkt. Ich gucke extra nicht in die Kommentare. Okay, ich guck. Probably Lando. Lance Stroll? Nee, ich glaube nicht Stroll. I would say Pierre. I would say Gasly. Or was habe ich vorhin gesagt? Verstappen. So, geil.